Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. It's Wednesday night, which means it's Cardiff City in the Championship all the way. So very much looking forward to a good old chit-chat about that. Of course, big shout out and thanks to the Sports Social Podcast Network, as ever, for hosting us for the audio side of all our shows. Please do check them out. If you'd like to download your podcasts, do that. Today's episode brought to you by ExpressVPN, the best VPN in the game. If you want to watch American Netflix, Australian Netflix, Turkish Netflix, all of that stuff, you can do that. Just click on the link before. You get 3 months free if you sign up for 12 months at a time. And it is absolutely superb thing. Absolutely brilliant. I cannot recommend it enough. I've used it myself now for several years. You can use it to watch football, Premier League football on Saturday lunchtime as well. And of course, as I always say, if you support our sponsors and our partners, you're supporting the channel, helps keep us going. Please do it. ExpressVPN, the best VPN in the game, in my opinion. And I used it today, in fact. So please do check it out. And it's also good for, what did I watch? I've watched the whole of the Ashes on Australian Channel 9 for free, instead of having to have a big subscription to Sky Sports. Just Australian VPN, Australian postcode, email, done. That's all you need. And I had the whole Ashes for free because it was on terrestrial TV. Click the link, which is in the bottom of the screen, and you get your old 3 months free. And it's a good old thing. You can also sign up to be a member, patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Get some rewards, exclusive content, keep the lights on at the channel, all that good stuff. Patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. We do a show on a Monday for the members where we just talk about all the news and stories from the week before, not just sport, everything. We discuss all the things which you're not allowed to discuss on a normal channel because you get cancelled or you get had a go at and you get haters and all the rest of it, which I'm just too old to kind of bother to deal with all that stuff. So that's that. That's the plugs. Let the latecomers join us on Twitter and YouTube. So welcome. Let's talk some Championship football. Cardiff City signed a winger on loan, which was quite an interesting one. He came in from Nottingham Forest. His name's Josh Bowler. Interesting because we talked about last week, what do we think Cardiff needed in their squad before the season starts? I think everyone said an out-and-out goal scorer, a good central midfielder, maybe a full-back or a centre-back. I didn't think a winger was one of them, which I really, kind of wasn't high up on my list because you've got O'Dowda, you've got Matey, you've got, there's several who can play. You've got, I forgot his name, for fuck's sake. You've got plenty of wide players who can do that job. Isaac Davis has also joined Belgian side KV Kortrijk on loan for the season. That is a phenomenal move for him, provided he plays. If he plays week in, week out for them, I think that can be so massive for his football education because Isaac Davis has got the talent to be the real deal. But if you're being realistic, where Cardiff are at the moment, they want to avoid being in a relegation scrap again. Hopefully top 10, maybe even playoffs. He's not going to play. Or he's certainly, he's going to be effectively be what Colwell was last year. And that wasn't great. So it's interesting though. But the manager seemed keen on Bowler. So if you got to back the manager. And I said when the manager first came in, one of the things I was very clear on was that if you're bringing the manager in, or if you're a manager of a football club, you've got to live and die by your decisions because you're only a bad run away from the sack. So you have to have the players that you want. Everyone who I know who's sort of seen him and is familiar with him say he's a cracking little winger, real good player. Will's just said there, cracking winger, happy with his signing. If we get Kiefer Moore in, we'll be champions, maybe, in brackets, he says. I'm not sure about that, mate, but I certainly think we're slowly starting to build a squad. I don't think we're there yet. I really feel that we need that I've talked about it a lot, but like we need that midfielder, box-to-box midfielder to play alongside Wintle behind Ramsey, who is aggressive and is physical and is technically very, very good. But as the season closes, I wonder if that's something that they're looking at. I got to be honest. Aaron Ramsey is looking sharp, and he looks good. Got to keep him fit. Got to keep him playing. Got to get the right players around him to get the best out of him. Because let's face it, we've seen in a Wales shirt, if the players around him aren't doing what they need to do, his creativity and his ability can only take you so far. And I think that's something that we need to be aware of as a club, as a squad, as a team, as a fan base. We have to get the right players. And I think, honestly, like Kiefer Moore is the ideal, but we need an out-and-out number 9 who is going to be able to have the movement and the technical attributes to go and finish the chances and get into the positions that Ramsey, Bowler, and alike create. And at the moment, I don't see it. Like, I know Karlan Grant is a very good footballer, a very good striker, and I think he could be the one, but his injuries seem to be an ongoing thing. I hope they turn, I hope he can get fit and he's not a lone player, which just doesn't end up playing, unfortunately. But I've got a feeling, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm completely proved wrong, and he turns out to fulfill, because he's a real good player, and I think he could be the goal scorer to play with the other players we've got in. But he's got to get fit. Got to be firing. Reese says Ebo Adams has looked really promising in pre-season, so really interested to see how we line up and who plays against Leeds. Yeah, Leeds is going to be an interesting one. We're going to do a bit more of a bit of an in-depth preview. We'll have a look at what team we think we will play, what team we think Leeds will play, and we'll kind of go from there a bit later in the show. And we'll do some predictions for the Championship as well. But I've got a full Cardiff City season preview coming out. I'm hoping it's going to be out Friday, but I'm not. Unfortunately, we couldn't film it on Monday, so I'm not filming it until tomorrow in the studio with a former Cardiff City great. So we're going to have to, hopefully, if I can get it edited and graphics and all the rest of it done, because I've got a certain way of looking at it in mind. Also, Eli King's gone on loan to Morecambe. Thought that was quite an interesting one. We handed him a new contract, and we were and ahhing, was he going to go out and play? He played 15 games in League Two last year for Crewe, and I think he needs to go and play again. He's got a new 3-year deal, so he knows, he's secure in his future. So I think if we can get him, at Morecambe, and he can play sort of 30 games in a season, really develop as a player and show what he's capable of, I think he could force his way in next year if he has a good season at Morecambe. But it remains to be seen, doesn't it? Whether he's young players, you just don't know. You don't know. There's no way to tell. They can have all the potential in the world, but if they don't play, they can't develop. And then when they do develop, they fulfill that potential. Josh Bowler, what to expect from him? If we can get the ball to him, he'll stay high, he'll stay wide, and he will try and isolate the fullback one-on-one. And I think Cardiff have been crying, as much as we've got kind of a lot of players who can fulfill those attacking wide roles. Like, he is an out-and-out winger and a traditional winger who's going to try and isolate the fullbacks, get them one-on-one, beat them, get a cross on, and I think cross in. And I think that's really what Cardiff need is an out-and-out winger. It's one of the reasons I really like Adauda, because he'll beat the man. And you've got teams like Leeds, Leicester, they will play very high lines, so you need that bit of pace in the wide areas to infiltrate. That is why Karlan Grant, for me, could be a phenomenal signing, because with those high lines, Ramsey pulling the strings, if you can get the likes of Grant and bowler in behind, you're going to cause teams a lot of problems. But it's going to be an interesting one. I really like the Leeds manager, which is annoying, and I think Ethan Ampadu is a great signing. We will talk about that, as I say, in a bit more detail in a bit, as it were. Will says Grant, Colin Grant, Mate, Ramsey all had serious injuries in their career, but think we'll get good 25, 30 games out of each. I've got to say, Ramsey looks as fit as I've seen him probably since 2016, which is interesting. Maybe that is it, that like the fan in me who's like willing it to happen. But like, as we've said recent weeks, like realistically, I don't think you could expect, 42, 3 games out of him, cup games. I just don't think it's his age. That's a realistic option. However, if you can get 30 games out of him, and then Ruben Corwell gets 15, 20 starts, that's good for the club. That's good for Ruben Corwell to really show if he's going to be able to do what he's capable of. Is he going to fulfill his potential? Will also says Eli King, Isaac Davis, etc. They need to go on loan to get used to being regular starters. Kieran Evans looks a different player this season in pre-season after a stint at Torquay. And yeah, I think this is what we've been saying in recent weeks about Corwell and Isaac Davis and all of them. They've got to play. Apologies, I had a bit of a sore throat. They've got to play week in, week out. You can't see if they're going to fulfill their potential if they just get in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there. It's no good for the club. It's no good for the players. Reese says a lot of teams play with high lines in this league, so pace is the key. I think Mate will be a rotation player. Yeah, I do like Mate. I think he could be I think it wouldn't surprise me if he went and scored like 10, 15 goals for us. I think he's that type of player. But again, will he stay fit? Will he be able to fit to the system? Like, I really like O'Dowda, but it worries me because I think you've got to think that if he's bringing in bowler, that's one of the wingers straight away. You got Ramsey in number 10, and then on the right, I think on the other wing is going to be the guy whose name I cannot remember. It's bugging me. We signed him last year, and he's really good. I will remember it in just a minute. But I think I've heard that Bournemouth have one striker pretty much deal done, sort of just waiting for the ink to dry effectively. And then they're also looking at another striker. So it looks like the new manager wants 2 strikers, and he doesn't fancy Kiefer Moore. I had heard that they would rather sell him than loan him, but I think because he's done quite well for Bournemouth, so I wouldn't be surprised if they can be talked into by his agent, by Cardiff, into getting that loan, because apparently he asked Cardiff to come on loan, is the rumour. So if that's the case, he's clearly got his heart set on it. I think he'd be a great sign-in. I think you put the pace in the wide areas, you put Kiefer Moore in the middle, you put Ramsey pulling the strings. That's a tremendous combination of players, and that's what you need. It's not just about individuals, it's about those combinations. Jonathan says Bournemouth still owe us money for Kiefer Moore as well. So yeah, that could play into it as well, and hopefully we could get a good deal on a loan. But most importantly, we need to get it done. We need to get it in. It doesn't look like it's going to be done in time for the Leeds game, but we do need to get it done. Will says O'Dowda is going to play fullback this season unless we get a left back. I think Jamalu Collins will play left back if he's fit, but also I could see O'Dowda starting there if they want to give Jamalu Collins plenty of time to, he's had a long-term injury, a bad injury, but I think he's wasted at fullback. I've got to be honest. Like, if I'm picking a team, O'Dowda, before Josh Bowler's come in, O'Dowda was my first choice winger. Like, when I look at the wingers, I think he's the trickiest, the paciest, the best in a one-on-one situation. So, like, he would be my choice for that role. However, if they're going to use him as a left back to give Jamalu Collins time, what a combination that could be down the left. O'Dowda at fullback and Bowler as your winger. But then maybe they'd rather play like a right-footed winger on the left, so that then you can have O'Dowda on the overlap. That would make a lot of sense too. So yeah, I think that looks. I can see the logic in that. I can see the combinations and the link-up play, the danger. I think could be real good for us. Jonathan says Jamalu Collins doesn't look half the player he was before his injury, and O'Dowda and Grant look like they're linking up very well on the left. Yeah, I like Grant. I just want him to stay fit. Bowler's left-footed right winger. Right, my apologies. I thought he was a left-footed left winger. But either way, he's got pace and he's very good at the one-on-ones. And yeah, like a right-footed. They played Carl and Grant, I suppose, off the left. It's really bugging me that I can't remember the guy's name, so I got to go back and find it because it's bugging me who I can't remember his name. He got suspended at the end of a season. What was his name? Oh my God, it's driving me nuts. Someone tell me. I know you can't guess what I'm thinking. We only signed him last year and he looked really good. And then I think he had an injury and he got suspended. And what's his bloody name? No, not Ojo. Campbell, maybe. Jonathan said Bowler's very fast and don't just go down the wing. He loves to cut in on his left and ping it. Yeah, I think it's the pace for me, the tricky. No, he's a striker. I appreciate you all guessing. Robinson, for God's sake, thank God for that. I like Callum Robinson. I like Robinson, right? I like him. I actually like him. If we didn't get Kiefer Moore, Callum Robinson, I think, could be our number 9. And I think Robinson could be quite good off the left as well if you've got O'Dowda as the fullback, because O'Dowda can be the overlap as Robinson cuts inside. So there's lots of different ways they could play. We've got a lot of good players. It's just getting the right combinations and the right link-ups, because as we all know, football is like, I see that upsets me. That's the wrong word. That worries me a little bit. Jonathan just said there in pre-season, Callum Robson's been rotating with Ramsey. So for me, personally, my choice would be this season's got to be do or die for Ruben Corwell in terms of his Cardiff City career. So I think he should be our backup number 10, or we should loan him out. Callum Robinson, in my opinion, should play off the left, or he should play as the number 9. I like him as the number 9. I think he's the best finisher at the club, and I think he's got all the attributes to be a very, very good number 9. It is nice. You are Will right there. Will says it's refreshing to have options, which feels like. Didn't it feel like for the last couple of years we've just had no options? Reese says, can't imagine Ruben Corwell gets a sniff at number 10 this season now, just seen as a bench filler, as we can now have 9 subs. Well, he's supposed to be the next big thing, mate. And if they're not going to play him, they should probably loan him out and let him show that he's the next big thing, because it is pointless to have a young player with the amount of promise that he has supposedly got. The club, people at the club will tell you he's going to be the next Aaron Ramsey, the next this. Like, he's got all the potential in the world to go and be a genuine top quality championship first team player for Cardiff, for Wales. If that's the case, he's got to play. If he's going to sit on the bench all season again, I know he had injuries and stuff like that, but it's just pointless. Like, send him on loan somewhere. There'll be loads of clubs which would take him on loan. Loads of clubs. So, yeah, it's a bit disappointing to hear that maybe he's a bit down the pecking order and seen as someone who's just going to fill the position on the bench. But I guess we won't know, will we? Until that league season starts. It's pre-season. I see so many fans of different clubs getting all upset over pre-season results and, oh, they're playing terrible and this and then that, and they're not playing their strongest teams. Pre-season, just the results do not matter in any way. Not even the performances matter, because different managers look at pre-season differently. A lot of managers will use pre-season games to work on new systems. They'll use it to work on new combinations, trying players in different roles, but also they will try different transitions in play and stuff like that in specific games. So to fans, it might look like, say, some player, a certain winger, he's playing terrible in this preseason game. He keeps cutting back, keeps cutting inside. He's not doing what we want to see him beat a man. We want to see him doing this. But then it could turn out, if you actually were in on the conversation with the manager and the coaches, they've asked him, every time you get the ball, I want you to cut in so this fullback can overlap and we can get the overload in the midfield and you can try and get a shot off. And actually, it's a specific way of playing that they're trying to work on in that game. So the fans could come away and think, oh, well, that was a terrible performance, terrible result. But actually, the manager might have been looking at something. I don't mean this just for Cardiff. I mean this for just all teams. Like, the manager could have been working on or looking for something very specific from certain players. So if you've got like a load of youth players, he might have asked the first team players to do a certain job. Pre-season does not matter. What matters is when that first league game comes and the manager picks whatever side he picks, is that you are fit, you're sharp, and you're ready to go from that first whistle. You can't take 3-4 games to get going. You have got to be ready for that first game. And in Cardiff's case, you got Leeds United first game. If you can't get up for Cardiff versus Leeds and be ready as a professional footballer, I just don't know what to tell you. But equally, with all the depth and the choices that Cardiff have got now, the manager has got to get it right, because Leeds are no pushovers. They've got some very, very good players. They're going to play they're a very attacking team. So defensively, we cannot have any errors. You cannot be making the mistakes that we made so much last year. The keeper's got to be sharp from the start. The fullbacks, everything. If the manager's got a new way of playing, a new system, if we're going to play from the back, if we're going to use an inverted fullback to create an overload in midfield, it's all got to be spot on. You can't, that Leeds game is not a game where you can say, oh, we're still working on something. Sorry. That Leeds game is when we need to be trying to get 3 points. We need to be ready as a team, as a fan base, as a club, as a manager, as a coaching staff. Everything has got to be ready. And, I've heard good things about the way the manager's working, but it will remain to be seen. It's a results business. And as we know, the board will not hesitate to sack managers of any board will not hesitate to sack managers if they get off to a bad start or they go on a bad run. So it's about getting it right, physically, tactically, and technically. Mistakes. Got to cut out the mistakes, because decent teams with good players will punish you. And the Championship is a high level now. The level of the Championship football now compared to 10 years ago is like a different animal. Years ago, you had a lot of teams who were very organized, very structured, very organized, and then they'd have one or two, flair players or quality players, but it was always about defensively being good. And then you'd get the odd team like that Newcastle team who would just come in and just obliterate everything. But generally speaking, it was very structured, organized teams would do well, like a Marky Mackay. His team did well, winning 1-0, 2-1, and just sort of churning it out. And you saw that a lot. But now the standard of football in the Championship is outstanding. it's like a second Premier League, as Andy used to say a lot. And it's enjoyable to watch. It's enjoyable to, no other league has the excitement that the Championship has. No other league. And it's very important that your team gets off to a good start. They've got to be ready. It's difficult for new managers, and I think it's also difficult for managers who haven't managed in this country, because it's just a different animal compared to any other league in the world. Even the Premier League, I think, is so different to that. And this is why sometimes we see teams like West Brom, they're struggling to find their feet back in the Championship. They improved a little bit last year, but compared to, where they were, just not for me. So let's have a look at some of these comments. Jonathan says, hope Ugbo proves me wrong in the season, but in pre-season he's looked way out of his depth. Yeah, that's a weird one for me, right? Because I got told by a couple of people from within the football club that, like, he was viewed as like a real coup. Like, they were super chuffed to get him and have him. Like, there was a few teams he could have gone on to loan with, and like, he was seen as a bit of a coup, a good, amazing, potentially a great young player. And everything which I've seen, and certainly everything I've heard other people saying, he doesn't look up to the standard of this standard at the moment, but again, pre-season can be so deceiving, so deceiving. Let's give him a chance, and hopefully he'll come good. He's a young player, so he might have some issues with consistency, and hopefully he is up to the level. But that's the word on the street, is that maybe he's not. But we've still got players. Mates, we know he can do well in the Championship. Carlin Grant, Robinson, O'Dowd, some great players. Ramsey's looks on fine form. So it's there. It's just getting the combinations right now, getting the team right. And it's going to be interesting who he goes with, because, like I said earlier, O'Dowd would have been my first pick as a winger. But, if he's brought in Bowler, and then you look at some of the other players he's signed, yes, to make the squad stronger. But normally, if you loan players, they're in to play, Reece said, I think for the past 3 seasons, we've been saying this is a big season. This is his big season. I don't think he's up to it. I hope I'm wrong, but he needs to go out and start 35 games. So I think he's talking about Ruben Corwell. And I agree. I think this season is, like, I don't want to be like hyperbole and all that sort of thing, but I do think in terms of his Cardiff City career, this season might be due. If he stays and he doesn't go on loan, I think it's do or die. Like, for him, I think he's got to show it. He's got to play. And if he's not going to play week in, week out, bloody loan him out. There will be clubs who will take him, and he could play 35 games, score like 10, 15 goals, get a load of assists, show what he's capable of. Cannot show what you're capable of if you're sat on the bench. And it feels like him being on the bench, maybe getting a few minutes here and there, is not good for him, and it's not good for Cardiff. Feels like to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people disagree. Will says Ruben has definitely filled out from last year or so. He looks like a man now, not a boy, and he'll get game time when Ramsey isn't playing or can't do the full 90. Yeah, that's what I thought. I assumed he would get game time when Ramsey needed a break. But if other players are already in front of him in pre-season, that might not be a good sign. But that might also be because the manager's happy that he's the backup number 10. So he's just letting him bed himself in and get fit for pre-season. He doesn't need to look at him too much. There's also that possibility, I guess. Reece says, worry for me is a lot of money spent on wages this season. What are the board expecting? Because if we're mid-table come Christmas, our board might pull the pin and sack the manager. They've done it for less. Yeah. Does anyone know why Steve Morrison was sacked? Yeah. If they do, please do tell me, because I don't think anyone knows. Reece also added, just read now, Bowler's a left-footed winger, which means he'll either be playing left wing if we play with width, or right wing if we play narrow to cut inside, which doesn't work playing narrow. And actually, I think to get the best out of Aaron Ramsey, I think we'd be better off with certainly at least one traditional winger playing high and wide, which is what I assumed Bowler was going to be, rather than inverted wingers who were going to constantly cut inside because they're cutting his space. Like, he finds these little pockets of space between the sort of defensive midfielder and the attack and the defense, and in between the fullbacks and those areas. And if you've got the wingers constantly cutting in there, it gets a bit clustered, and you need Ramsey to find those pockets of space to be that creative force that he's so good at being. Will says, agree with Jonathan. Ugbo looks like another Atete. Not quite up to it at the moment, but hopefully he comes good. Jonathan says, what do you think of Isaac Davis going to Tan's other club on loan? Yeah, I mentioned it briefly earlier. I think, I mean, there's obviously the conversation in there about like owners and joint owners and all this. We talked about it before. But I think for Isaac Davis, he's 21. He's shown enough for people to be excited by him. Unfortunately, he's had, a few injuries. But I think he needs to play. Like Ruben Corwell, he needs to play. If he goes there and plays 35 games this season and come back 10 to 15 goals, he can come back to Cardiff and say, right, I went on loan, I scored goals, I played, I want my chance now in the Championship to be one of the striking options. He can't do that at the moment. There's more experienced, more proven players in front of him. So yeah, like, I think it's a good move. I've got to be honest. Would I have preferred him to go to like a League One club or maybe a higher standard? Yeah, possibly, but it is what it is, isn't it? It's a bit of you scratch my back, I scratch yours with his other club. I think it's a good move if he plays. Will says, we do need a centre-back. Gutaz looks great, but he's untried in the Championship. Not a big fan of Simpson, so I think we need another to push for the second centre-back spot. I like McGuinness, and I like Gutaz, but I think you need at least three. Like, you need three first-choice centre-backs fighting it out for the centre-back role, whether NG is going to be like that third first-choice centre-back, maybe. I don't know. Corwell was injured again in pre-season, Jonathan says. Had a knock for the Wickham game. He did play in Portugal, though. Says, well, Bowler can play left wing, but he's mostly a left-footed right winger, similar to Craig Noon. Yeah, and that can work exceptionally well. If you've got a good shot as well, like they can pick up a lot of goals. But for the way, when I look at the Cardiff side, which we'll talk about in just a sec, I think I would prefer more traditional wingers, if that makes sense. Like, I'd like, or certainly on one side, because I think two inverted wingers could get it all a bit cluttered in there. Let's see if we've got pick your Cardiff lineup for Leeds game. See if there's a website out there which is allowing us to pick our side. Choose your Leeds 11 to face Cardiff City. Don't want that. I want a website which allows me to pick my Cardiff 11 for the Leeds game. Can't find one. That's disappointing. Reese says, I was a bit surprised. Isn't that the club Tan agreed to sale of and then the buyers pulled out and now he's being sued? The board of management all resigned because of Tan. I can't comment on that, mate, simply because I don't know. I don't know anything about where, but it wouldn't surprise me. Football is a shady, shady, shady place. Jonathan says, unfortunately, Isaac Davis had a few chances, but anytime he had regular game time, he would just get injured. Yeah, and that's where he's got to go and play, hasn't he? Like, every time you'd play, you'd get excited by him, and then he'd pick up another injury. Looks like Will said, think all Bowler's goals, assists come from when he played on the right. Yeah, that seems to be the I just want to pick my Cardiff lineup, man. Why can't you pick it? It should just be a website with all the games on so you can just pick your lineup. But it's not there, no less. So I might have to just do a little makey up. Pick your greatest Cardiff City lineup. Maybe we should do that in a minute. Cardiff City. Right, okay. Let's have a look then. Squad numbers, right. So, let's talk about Leeds first. So I had a little look earlier at what I think Daniel Farke will go with. So we're going to kind of run through the 11 that I think he'll pick. Obviously, I could be wrong. I really rate Daniel Farke as a championship manager. He's going to play good attacking football, but I think defensively they'll be much more solid. The French goalkeeper they've got, is it Maisley? I watched him a few times last year in the Premier League, and he was awesome. But he lost his place towards the end of the season. They brought in Carl Darlow from Newcastle to provide a bit of depth in the goalkeeping department. I think Maisley will get the nod for the first game of the season, but Darlow's there if he doesn't have a good start. Defensively, you've got Luke Ayling, who's proven in the Championship, a very good player. Cresswell, Liam Cooper, Cody Dramer's injured. Then I think it'll be between Sam Byram and Leo Hedjaldi at the other fullback spot. And then you're going to have, I think they'll play with two holding midfielders, which will be Ethan Ampadu. Quality! Going to cause us some problems because he's got aggression, technical ability for days. And I worry about him versus our midfield. I think Ethan Ampadu might do a job on Aaron Ramsey. He might even, if not man mark him, certainly keep very tight and follow him into the pockets and try and close the gap between the Leeds defence and the midfield to try and limit the amount of time Ramsey gets on the ball. They'll play, I think, Archie Gray next to him. He's young. He's only 17. Really impressed over pre-season. And the manager loves him. There is a couple of others they could play instead of him because obviously he's young. And look, that's some legs in there for Leeds. Like Archie Gray and Ampadu, it's been barely 30 between the two of them. You know, it's going to be insanity. It's barely 30, barely 40 between the two of them, should I say. I think Archie Gray will play, but they've got Giabi, they've got Shackleton, a couple of others who they could slot in there. And then they'll play the three behind the striker. You've got Sinistera, very good player. Dan James will play on one wing. There's a lot of Welsh presence in this game. And they've also got that Nonto, who I think is really good. Personally, if I was picking a side, I would play Nonto, Dan James, and I'd play Sinisteri in the number 10 role. But I actually think they'll play Somerville, Dan James, and Sinistera with Nonto on the bench. Up front's an interesting one for Leeds because Patrick Bamford is a championship striker. Always struggles in the Premier League, but he's clearly got something about him. He scores goals in the championship. He's a good footballer, but his finishing is so hit and miss. But he's carrying an injury. Him and the other striker, Rutter, both limped out of the pre-season friendly versus Hearts. So you're probably looking at the Joe Gelhardt as the striker for Leeds. I think that's probably the 11 they go with. But I think if Bamford's fit, he'll probably play, in fairness. I think that Nonto will score goals for days in the championship. As I said, I would play him and Dan James as the wide players. And I think, Jesus, that is some pace. And like you look at that, if Leeds have got Dan James and they had Nonto on the wings, Gelhardt up front, and then Ampadu at the base with young Archie Gray. That is such a young side. So much pace, so much legs. I really, really feel like if Cardiff can take a draw from that Leeds game, I'd be pretty happy, I've got to be honest, because I think Leeds are going to probably win the league. I've got to be honest. That hurts me to say. I look at the youth, and the big thing will be they got such a young side, is can they be consistent enough? But there's players in there which I think are going to do bits. So bear with the Cardiff one, bear with me, because I'm not up to date over the last few days on injuries. So forgive me if I name anyone in my predicted 11 who, you know, is injured, basically. Let's bring the squad up. Someone asked, I think it was Matt, asked about Old Slap's fitness. Haven't heard anything about that, which is a bit weird. Okay, let's have a look. Predicted Cardiff City lineup. Save. Just gotta wait for the file to open. Sorry, guys. So what did I pick? So I go in with a 4-2-3-1. So we'll mirror Leeds' formation. And as I mentioned, Leeds got a very young, youthful attack. And then it's going to be fascinating to see where we go. Look, if Allsop's fit, Allsop will play. First and foremost, he's the number one. He will play. I would go with, so this is what I would pick rather than what I think the manager will pick, maybe. Yeah, so I'd go Allsop. I go in NG at right back. I'd go Gutas and Mark McGuinness as my centre backs. I think it's got to be O'Dowda at left back, because it doesn't seem like Jamalu Collins is up to speed yet. Then I'm going Ryan Wintle. And then it's the other one, which I'm not sure of. I'd probably go with either Sawyers or Ebo Adams as my next to him. I don't think you can play Rawls and Wintle together as a two behind Ramsey. I don't think it's got enough legs, especially against that Leeds side. There's too much youth and legs in there to play both of them. Wintle's got to play, in my opinion. So then who does you go next to him? Yeah, I think remains Sawyers, probably, maybe Rinamoto. Rinamoto I quite like as well. And then your three, I'm going, if they're all fit, I'm going Ramsey. Someone just said McGuinness has got a knock. Right, so if McGuinness is injured, I'm playing NG as centre-back with Gutas and play someone else at full-back, because I do not rate Simpson at all. Jonathan says Rawls and Wintle work better than Adams and Wintle in pre-season. Adams and Wintle too similar. Yeah, I could see that. I just don't think Rawls and Wintle together have got the legs to cover the ground they need to cover when you've got Ramsey at 10. So I'd probably go. I like Rinamoto in a central position, but I don't know. It's tricky. I could see Rawls starting. I could see. I do think, but Rawls has got a knock as well, hasn't he? I think the manager will probably pick Rawls and Wintle, to be honest, but I wouldn't pick two of them together against Leeds, at least. And then I'm going Bowler off the right or left. And then I would probably go. So someone speak to me about Ojo, right? Because I thought, and I've not been impressed by Ojo at all recently, certainly last season. But I've been told by several people that he's had a really, really good preseason. So you guys tell me. I think I'd go Mate and right. So I'm assuming that Carlin Grant is not fit. So this would change if Carlin Grant was fit and Robinson was fit. So if Carlin Grant's unfit, I'm going Mate and Bowler as the wingers, Ramsey number 10. And then I would go with Robinson as the out-and-out number 9. If Carlin Grant is fit, I'm going Carlin Grant instead of Mate. And then you can decide if you play Grant or Robinson as the 9. Jonathan says, if you put Ojo in your starting lineup, you need medicating. Yeah, I wouldn't. But I'm just saying that people in preseason have said that he's done really well. Like, I've seen a lot of people saying it. But I just think there's others who I'd pick who knows. So if you look at the list on the Cardiff website, you've got Ojo, Mate, Grant, Ugbo, Tate, Tanner, Robinson, and then obviously Bowler to be added. I would pick all of the players, all of the other attacking options ahead of Ojo. I just would. I just don't. You can't trust him to be consistent, and you can't trust him in a big game. This Leeds game is going to be really hard for Cardiff, I think. They're going to have to be bang up for it. We're going to have to be super organised. We're going to have to defend well. And when we get chances, we've got to take them. And that's why, if fit, I'm playing Robinson and Grant because I think they're the best 2 finishers in the club. And you want to get Bowler in there as your out-and-out winger. You've got a Dowder, you've got Ramsey, you've got creativity there for once. And yeah, that's where I'd probably go in terms of starting 11. Tell me if I'm wrong, though. You know, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm kind of guessing and whatnot. Let's have a look at some of the comments. I've missed a few, so I'm going back a bit. Right. All right, here we go. So what do we think? Will says, what do we think a good final league position would be for us? So yeah, you guys let me know, and I'll let you know mine in a minute, where I think Cardiff will finish. Jonathan says they've still got Noto and Gay Abbey, who tore us apart in the cup. Yeah, both are very, very good players, mate. Very good. I'm surprised both of them haven't moved on to a Premier League team, to be honest. I thought Noto might end up going to Villa or someone like that. Reece says, every season I want us challenging for the playoff, but that's the fun of the championship. And it is like any team can beat anyone. Like Cardiff could be in the top 3 or we could be in the bottom 3. It's just mental. Reece says, I hate the Premier League. I find it boring. I much prefer the EFL, so I'm going mid-table. Will says, no, Nonto is going to tear the division up. Gelhardt, Leicester and Southampton, very strong. Yeah, agreed. Jonathan says, Allsop, McGuinness, Colwell and Rawls all carrying knocks. We're screwed if we have to play Simpson. Yeah, I play NG alongside Gutas and anyone else at fullback. I wouldn't trust Simpson. Against that Leeds midfield and attack, would you trust Simpson? I don't think you can. And a few people saying like Rawls and Wintle combo worked well in pre-season. Yeah, I'm just worried about the legs, to be honest. I think, technically, I think if Rawls was 5 years younger, I think there's something there. Like, because technically, Joe Rawls is excellent. Got a pass in him. He's very intelligent footballer. Reads the game well. He gets stuck in a bit if he wants as well. And Wintle's a good CDM for championship level, I think. So the combination was good. I just think Rawls has lost half a yard in recent years as he's got older, and not sure if it's the right combination, but it might be the right combination for some games, some circumstances. You've got to adapt as well. You know, if we're 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go, we've got to adapt and be defensive, or if we need a goal, we've got to adapt and change formation and tactics for different teams. Like this Leeds game is going to be really difficult, and I wouldn't be surprised if we reverted to like a 3-5-2 to try and be a bit more defensively solid, but still have the wide players. So what about this? If we played Gutas, NG. Oh no, because then I'd have to play. So if McGuinness is not fit, what about if we played NG, Gutas, and gonna have to play him. Simpson as a 3. Yeah. Then so that's your 3 central defenders. O'Dowda as one wing back. Bowler as the other wing back. And then you'd have Rawls and Wintle with Ramsey just in front. And then played Carlin Grant and Robinson up front. Or you could even, if you wanted to make it a bit more defensive, you could play like a Robinson and then play Ramsey off him as like a second striker and stick another central midfielder in there to shore it up. You've got to be able to adapt tactically to the teams you're playing. And I think this Leeds game is going to be very, very difficult. My screen is frozen, so I just got to check on my phone quickly to check I was still going. I think we're good. Let me know in the comments, though, if we are, if everything's good. Yeah, I don't think Simpson's the answer. I think I actually don't think Romeo would be the worst option on the right-hand side of a 3 with NG and Gutas. Gutas in the middle, NG one side, and Romeo the other side as a 3. Don't think that would be the worst 3 if what's his head's out, if McGuinness is unavailable. Just if you were going to play like a 3-5-2. I don't think we will, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did, because I think this Leeds game is going to be real difficult. Will's 11 would be Allsop, NG, McGuinness, Gutas, O'Dowda, Bowler, Rawls, Wintle, Grant, Ramsey, and Robinson. Good shout. Yeah, I think that's pretty good, mate. I like that. Reese, I'm torn because if Collins isn't fit, I'd rather play Bagan there. But O'Dowda on the wing. But I don't really rate Bagan. However, Bagan, mate, is probably defensively better than O'Dowda. So maybe for the Leeds game, you play Bagan and you have O'Dowda and Bowler as your wingers either side of Ramsey, and you try and hit them with pace. You play Robinson up front on his own or Grant. You have the other one on the bench. You try and hit him on the counter-attack. You have Ramsey dropping into the spaces. You have 2 legitimate fullbacks, and you try and hit Leeds on the break. I think that could work. You know, that's a sensible way to look at it. We definitely need a bit of a centre-back cover. NG can play left-back as well. Romeo can play right-back. Yeah, that's an option. Everton have been trying to sign Nonto, but hasn't gone through yet. Yeah, I think he'd be a great fit for Villa, Everton. I like Giabi as well, mind. I think he's good. Honourable shout-out to Gigi Buffon, greatest goalkeeper in my lifetime, finally retired. A genuine giant of the game, says Reese. Jonathan says Simpson played in defence in the cup game versus Leeds, and it was not pretty. Will says O'Dowda is a great left winger, but we're blessed with wide players this season, so he's 100% playing fullback. Bowler, Grant, Mate, Evans, and if push comes to shove, you've got Ojo as well. Yeah, and I think Robinson can play wide as well. So. It's going to be interesting. Alnwick, says Jonathan Davis. Yeah, I like Alnwick. I want to know what this Rohan Lafura keeper's like. Heard some whispers he's pretty good, but he's young. So Jonathan's team would be Alnwick, Romeo, Guta, NG, O'Dowda, Wintle, Rina Mahota, Bowler, Ramsey, Grant, and Mate. I like that team, Jonathan. I think that is capable of scoring with Grant, Mate, Ramsey, Bowler. But I like the combination of Wintle and Rinamoto. But I also like Romeo in there. Interesting that you've picked NG. Is that with the assist? I'm assuming that's because McGuinness is assumed to be out. But maybe you prefer NG at centre-back. Reece said, don't forget Leeds have lost a load of players due to being relegated. Relegated can leave on loan, so they will be trying to fit into a new style. It might take them 10 games to get going. I mean, that's wishful thinking, I've got to say. But ultimately, I just think Leeds look good on paper. But maybe I'm giving them too much credit because it's a very, very young side. So maybe they won't be up to speed in the Championship. Maybe it's going to take a bit of time. Mate hasn't really played in pre-season, so don't think he'll be in contention to start the Leeds game. Saw him at my physio appointment 2 weeks ago. Says, well, yeah, but like we got options, haven't we? And like I say, I quite like Robin. If Grant was going to play through the middle, I quite like Robinson off the other wing. If O'Dowd is going to play left back, so there's that. There's a few options in there. Jonathan says, drop Romeo if McGuinness is fit. Yeah, I thought so. So, to finish off, let's talk about the Championship season. My computer's been a bit weird, so I'm going to get my phone out, unfortunately, guys. You'd have to tell me if it all freezes up or we have any problems that side. Look, automatic promotion contenders straight away: Leeds, Leicester, Southampton. I just think a combination of them, the squads they've got, the managers, some of them have got, they're going to be there or thereabouts. Jamie Vardy, I could see scoring a bag full of goals in the last year of his contract. He's going to be desperate to get Leeds up. I think Middlesbrough are in the conversation under Michael Carrick. He looks like a very good manager. I believe Leicester have made a real good job. They've done a good job of dealing with the players they've lost and bringing in some players who are probably a bit too good for the Championship. Connor Cody, Harry Winks. They brought the young lad in from City. Jamie Vardy going into his final year of contract. He's going to be desperate to get him up. I just think they got something in Leicester. Southampton, as it stands, haven't lost James Ward-Prowse. They're exciting. Massive squad, though, Southampton have got. So I think that's got to obviously, they're going to have to sell players. I think Middlesbrough will be up there. Playoffs is a bit of a wild one. Like Millwall, Coventry, Sunderland, Jacks, West Brom, gotta come good, surely. Norwich will be there or thereabouts. I don't think they'll be in the automatic conversation, but I think they'll be, there or thereabouts in the Premier League, in the playoffs. But I will give you my predictions on who I think is going to get promoted, who I think is going to go up, where I think Cardiff will end up. So here's the thing, right? With Cardiff's weird this year. Like, if you had a time machine and you told me Cardiff get relegated this year, wouldn't surprise me. If you got a time machine and you told me Cardiff finished second this year, wouldn't surprise me. Or if they won the playoffs, they got to the playoffs, they finished top 10. Nothing would surprise me with Cardiff. I think if we can get, I said before, if Cardiff can get top 10 and then build next year to a playoff challenge, and then the year after, in his third year, assuming the manager stays, in his third year, he's pushing for an automatic promotion, then that's progress each year. Do I think it'll happen? I'm not sure the board have got enough patience, because we will have a rocky spell, and I just don't know whether we've got the patience at board level to see the manager through that rocky spell. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Blackburn have got to get over the line at some point. I think they've, done some good, interesting business. Birmingham have done some really, really good business. Like, I know I've seen a lot of the papers predicting Cardiff as relegation. I don't think we're going to be in the relegation battle. Touch wood. I think this Championship is very, very difficult. One of the most difficult for a few years. It gets difficult every year. I think if Cardiff achieve top 10, then that's a very good season. And then the manager can build on it. it's so difficult because I look at it and I just look at all of them and I think they've all got like a player or two I quite fancy. Every team has got a player or two that I fancy, and I think they could do quite well. So, in terms of relegation, I think Huddersfield will go down. I think Preston will go down, and I think Rotherham will go down. I think Leicester will win the championship. I think Middlesbrough will finish second. I think the playoffs will be made up of Southampton, Sunderland, Leeds, and Cardiff City. I said it now, I can't take it back. I'm going to clip that and can't take it back. So I apologise because I just tempted fate. We're going to be in the relegation battle now. Guys, can you tell me if I've frozen? Because I feel like my screens have all gone to pot. So bombard me with comments quickly. I sit on my phone because everything on my screen is frozen. There's nothing that I can do. I can't see anything. Don't know if I'm still going. What is going on? I apologise. So what do you think of my predictions there guys? Right, frozen and back. Oh, listen to that awful sound.
There. Right. I think I'm back, guys. I apologise for that. So did you hear my predictions? If you did, and I'll go through them all again. Very quickly, let me know and I'll redo them and we can clip them properly. Let me know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with StreamYard tonight. It's been a bit poop. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Okay. Let me know if you heard the full championship predictions, or should I just do them again? See if I can remember them, innit? So basically, I think I said for relegation, Rotherham. Who was it? Forgotten. Rotherham, Preston, and Huddersfield. Leicester to win the championship. Second, I said Middlesbrough. And then I think the playoffs will be made up of Leeds. Who else did I say? Leeds, Sunderland. Can't remember who the fourth club I said. Oh, that's going to annoy me. Leeds, Sunderland, Cardiff, and Southampton was they're my predictions. I have definitely cursed Cardiff by saying they'll make the playoffs. That's a bit, it's the bias, the Cardiff fan in me, that is definitely. So yeah, let's have a look at some of these. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I apologise for. Hopefully the audio came through, so you heard most of what I was saying. For some reason, my computer froze. Jonathan says, I did not think Leeds will win the league. Absolutely not. But I do think they'll finish in the playoffs. I think Leicester will win the league. Jesus. Did I say Leeds the first time? Leicester will win the league. Reese says, last season we were very poor at both ends of the pitch. The keeper leaves me with no confidence. Defence is always 3 or 4 big mistakes each game. On top of that, until Sorry Carver came in, Waters couldn't hit a barn door. Yeah, I do think we're going to miss Sorry Carver a little bit, but I do like Carlin Grant and Robinson specifically. I think they could pick up the slack together. The most important thing for Cardiff, particularly in this Leeds game, is we've got to cut out the mistakes. If you don't make mistakes against Leeds, like if defensively, if we don't make any mistakes, I do fancy us to. I do think we can do something in the game. We can get some from the game. I think we've got good enough players. They've got a young side as well, and with the young sides, if we could get an early goal, their fans are going to get frustrated really quick because they're coming down from all the teams come down from the Premier League. They do expect to win. So if you can get an early goal in this first game, the pressure will be on them. Young players, you don't know how they're going to react. Jonathan says, when you spoke about Leeds playing us, you said you think they won the league. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're up there. I think they got a great squad. I think Leicester have the best overall balance to their squad and a good mix of experience and youth. And I think they got a nice looking squad. I like Middlesbrough though as well. I really like Michael Carrick's way of going about things. I think he's built a great squad as well. Championship's going to be real hard this year, boys. Real hard. But I put Cardiff in my playoff prediction. Definitely a bit of bias in there, I think. Listen, as always, guys, I really appreciate you. Thank you for bearing with me where we just had a bit of a freeze. I'll be back tomorrow night. Being joined by Theo from the Shed End podcast, which is a Chelsea podcast. We're going to be talking predominantly the top sort of European leagues, Premier League, stuff like that. But we might talk a bit of Championship and that. Going to talk to Theo about Chelsea's disastrous season last year, as well as then we'll give our predictions for the Premier League, stuff like that, and then we can go back to them at the end of the season. But I'll be back in the evening tomorrow night, and until then, I bid you all a farewell. Thank you for bearing with me. I won't be on my phone tomorrow night. We'll be on my computer. I'll fix it. So what's going on with my internet? But it's been a pleasure. Take care. Ta-ra now.